I log into Celestial Crossing that night on a whim. I haven't played since Neurath's arrival, for obvious reasons, so I'm not quite sure what to expect as the logo flashes briefly. Neurath's character doesn't appear on the login screen, I note with only mild surprise. With no trace of her left in the game, the question of how to get her back to her world seems even more daunting than before. Then there's also the depressing fact that, I'm assuming she's stuck out here, I'll have to spend months building a new character up from scratch. I lament briefly over all the gear I spent so many months raiding for. I wonder if the developers would credit me all the gold I had in their inventory if I tell them the character somehow magically got out of their game. I snort at my own dry humor. Inspiration strikes me suddenly. Quickly, I dig out the badge I got for the upcoming convention and stare at it. I'd have to get an Earth one as well, but that shouldn't be too hard. A 1 day pass for the day of the Celestial Crossing panel should be enough. I remember how excited I was to hear that the developers of the game itself would be there. Now my pulse is pounding with the knowledge we might finally have a shot at getting some answers. After all, who could know better about the lore of the game than the developers themselves? I surge out of my seat and rush into the living room, where Neurath is busy putting the finishing touches on her armor. Great news! We're gonna see the developers of your game. They should have some answers on how to get you home.
Developers?
Yeah. Think of them as the high authority on magic from your world. If anyone should know anything, it's them. I'm liking the sound of this plan more and more. After weeks of nothing, it feels like I'm finally doing something to help our situation. Neurath, on the other hand, looks less than infused.
If you say so, I guess. Better than nothing.
I realize I've neglected to tell her the best part. Did I mention you can wear your armor? The elf's ears twitches, and her face breaks into a broad grin. She almost looks like her in-game self again.
Fuck yeah, let's do it!
Yeah! It's a couple days before the con, and I'm starting to sweat. I mean, the plan is still the best shot we have at figuring out how to get Neurath back home, but that's definitely not what I would call foolproof. All I can do to try and offset the many potential pitfalls is to make sure I have everything figured out on my end. Right now, that just means memorizing the panel time and location, and trying to work out what questions to ask them ahead of time. I'm researching the developers when Neurath's bored voice drawls out from the living room.
Hey, useless! Your magic picture box stopped working. Come fix it.
I showed you how to use the remote control just this morning. Figure it out yourself. She comes stomping moodily into the room, stopping in the doorway and leaning against it with a surly pout.
You would have done it for me a week ago.
Yeah, well, a week ago you scared the shit out of me. She snorts before tilting her head and squinting past me at the computer monitor I've been staring at all morning.
What are you even doing in here? Isn't that just a smaller picture box thing?
I'm trying to figure out what we'll say to the developers when we get into the panel. Getting you a ticket will be useless if I freeze up and draw a blank as soon as we get their attention. She doesn't even let me finish talking, instead rolling her eyes at my dull explanation and heading toward the balcony for some fresh air. Fine by me. I concentrate better without the extra noise anyway. I do a search for pictures of the developers, hoping to recognize them on sight and identify the ones that are most likely to have answers, when I hear the balcony door fly open again. Footsteps approach, and I look up in time to see Neurath blow into the room excitedly.
Yakisoba bread! Now!
Huh? Right now? Didn't I just...
And not from the regular store either. It has to be from the big store.
I blink, completely nonplussed. Which store is the big...
The big store, useless! The store that's made up of all the smaller stores.
Like the mall? She's so excited she's not letting me finish any of my sentences. You mean the mall?
Yes! I need bread from the mall right now!
She's grabbed my shoes before I can even form a coherent protest. Neurath, I don't have time to run out and buy you bread right now, especially not from the mall. The nearest one is within walking distance, but still a good 15-minute trek each way. Neurath lowers her brows and crosses her arms in a stance designed to be intimidating as possible.
We can do this one of two ways. You can suck it up and go under your own power, or I can whip up a special spell. And if you happen to realize later that you forgot to wear pants, well...
Fine. I jam my feet into my shoes with poor grace, grabbing the house keys from the table on the way. Just before I head out though, Neurath stops me. My frown doesn't do much to faze her, and instead she looks up at me with a bizarrely serious face.
Just take a breath and relax, okay?
I'm gonna guess that she's seen Mika heading for the mall, and she's gonna try and set us up now. This seems like an overreaction, but it's puzzling enough that I feel some of my anger drain away.
And, be yourself or whatever.
I blink at her, confused. The hell? Without a word, she shoves me out the door and closes it behind me. The last thing I see is her oddly embarrassed expression. Needless to say, I head for the mall, grumbling to myself the whole way. Oh, she makes me go by myself, I see. It takes me a while to find the bread, and by the time I have it in hand, I've cooled down enough to wonder why Neurath thought it was so important for me to buy it here at this particular time. Her comments were irritatingly cryptic. Since I'm already out, I take a minute to glance around and spot my favourite video game store in the distance. A few seconds of browsing shouldn't mess up my plans for the day any more than they already are. I'm not even halfway there when I see Mika sitting at a table outside a nearby cafe. I knew it. Honestly, I might have walked right by if the red eyes and wet cheeks hadn't grabbed my attention. I hover a step closer, unsure whether or not I should say hello. She looks really upset, and I'm not the best when it comes to complex social interactions. Of course, she chooses this precise moment to glance up and notice me standing there.
Hikaru-kun?
Why are you not wearing any pants? Why didn't I just greet her like a normal person instead of stopping to stare? I wave lamely, try my best not to smile too wide or do anything that might make me come across even creepier than I already have. Luckily, she's too busy looking away to hide the tears. I pause, panicking a bit. Should I try and say something comforting? Or would it be better to pretend she's just dabbing at her mouth and not furtively using a napkin to wipe off her face instead? Before I can do more than approach the table, she's already looking up at me with a slightly forced smile on her features.
Hey, I'm surprised to see you here. You don't hang out at the mall much, do you?
Not really.
Oh, well, do you want to walk around with me for a little while?
Her smile dims, and she looks so desperate for company that I nod without a second thought. She stands up, and notice for the first time how nicely she's dressed. It's hard not to let my eyes wander, but I'm not depraved enough to ogle her while she's so obviously upset. We pass by a few stores, and her attention wanders to the different couples walking by. I gulp, realizing belatedly that the mall is such a popular date night destination, we probably look like a couple too. If the situation makes her uncomfortable, she doesn't show it, and after a few more steps, she finally speaks.
I guess there's no point hoping you didn't see me bawling my eyes out back there, huh?
You just look like you're crying a little bit. I wouldn't have said bawling. She cracks a wry smile at that, and looks up at me with an expression that makes my heart lurch sickeningly.
You say that like my eyes aren't puffy and my nose isn't bright red right now.
Fuck, she's such a good voice actor, holy crap. Try and comfort her, I guess? They aren't. I mean, no more than usual, I think. Not that they're usually puffy and red, God, I need to stop talking. She raises an eyebrow at me before bursting into soft giggles.
Thanks, Hikaru-kun. I think.
She sticks her tongue out at me playfully, and I'm at least happy that I managed to cheer up a little bit.
Well, the reason I was crying is because I was on a date.
I feel like someone hits the pause button on my life as my entire mood plummets upon hearing those 5 words. You've had weeks to ask her out, mate. I mean, I'd always known she dated, but seeing evidence of it firsthand makes the fact seem so much more real.
And when I told him I didn't want to see him again after it was over.
She's not smiling anymore. In fact, she looks like she's fighting back tears again, and her voice is hoarse when she eventually forces herself to go on.
Let's just say he wasn't very nice about it.
Did he hurt you? I don't know what I plan to do about it if she answers an affirmative, but some deeply ingrained masculine part of me asks anyway, because I have to know. Let's get Neurath to beat him up, easy. Thankfully, she shakes her head quickly.
No, nothing like that. He was just an asshole calling me a tease and a whore.
She wrings her hands slightly and sniffs back a few more tears.
Sorry, I know it's stupid to get so worked up about it.
Her forced laugh comes out sounding more like a hiccup.
I mean, the only reason I went on this stupid date with him in the first place was because he kept asking, and I agreed so long ago that I couldn't put him off anymore. I tried to tell him I wasn't interested, but he insisted I'd already promised.
What a douche. I'm not sure what my face is doing, but when she peeks up at me, she offers her final defense, shrugging helplessly.
I didn't know how to get out of it without being a bitch.
Let's go for this one. Well, sounds like you made the right decision anyway. You didn't have to be such a jerk about it.
I know.
We stop walking and she turns her body fully toward me. Something about her looks smaller and more fragile than usual. Her eyes seem huge as they look up at me through dark, wet lashes.
It hurt to hear him call me those things, especially since part of me feels like I did lead him on a bit. I shouldn't have said yes in the first place. It hurt even though I didn't really like him.
She sniffs again, and this time she can't hold back a few more tears. Her laugh comes out sounding self-deprecating and bitter. I immediately hate it, because sounds that ugly shouldn't be coming out of her.
That's pretty stupid, right?
Make a move. Kind of. Something comes over me as I watch her sob over this loser whose face I'd like to punch so badly it hurts. Before I even fully wrap my mind around what I'm doing, she's there in my arms and my head is spinning at the soft scent of her shampoo. Everything about her is soft, in fact. Her warmth seeps into me as I rub her back in small, soothing circles. It feels unbelievably satisfying to hold her like this, and hear the way her crying gradually tapers off. There's a gentle tugging at my back, and my heart gives a nervous spasm when I realize that her small hands are clenching in the fabric of my shirt. She returns the hug, but leans away far too soon, electing to wipe the moisture off her face with some embarrassment.
Sorry, I think your shirt's all wet now.
No, it's fine. And you're not stupid. She smiles up at me with real gratitude and it feels amazingly empowering. Like I could take on 5 Neuraths and live to tell about it.
Walk me home?
Her soft question is a surprise, but I don't mind it. This has been a day full of developments, after all. The way back is peppered with conversation. She asks what Neurath has been up to and laughs when I tell her a highly edited version of how she got me into the fight with our neighbour.
Why would she do that, though?
She's Neurath. She lives to make my life miserable.
Nothing like family, huh?
She winks and I notice that the change in topic has cheered her up immensely.
At the end of the day, though, I think you two really must care about each other a lot. You wouldn't be able to laugh about it like this if you didn't.
Huh. There's a thought. I switched the subject since I have no idea what to make of her analysis on my friendship with Neurath. Do you feel any better now?
Yeah. In the past, I've always just gone out with guys who chase me, but most of them turn out to be insensitive, emotionless assholes.
She turns to face me with a small, knowing grin, and I nearly trip over my own feet.
I think I just need to reevaluate the kind of guys I date.
I tell myself firmly we're almost back at the apartments. Humiliating myself by running to a sign or falling into a pothole is not an option.
By the way, are you ever going to tell me why you went all the way out to the mall to buy some yakisoba bread?
I look down at the bag of bread in my hand somewhat dumbly. I'd forgotten the whole reason I'd left the house this morning. It was Neurath. She knew. Somehow she knew Mika would be at the mall, and I'd see her there. I think back to all the unsettled comments she's made about Mika and me over the past few weeks, and I wonder if she's been plotting something like this from the beginning. Add to that the cryptic comments she made right before I left, and I find myself laughing out loud at the thought of her little matchmaking schemes. She's a big softie after all. I don't mean say it out loud, but I just shake my head at Mika's understandably confused look. The bread's for her. It's pretty much all she eats. Her small nose wrinkles cutely.
That doesn't sound healthy.
Bread makes you fat.
Bread makes you fat? I laugh and ask her about her life at the university just before we finally reach the apartments. She explains her area of study, industrial chemistry, and tells me a few funny stories about her teachers as we slowly climb the many stairs leading up to our floor. By some kind of unspoken but mutual understanding, we part at the precise halfway point between our homes. I can already hear some kind of loud noise coming from the direction of my apartment, but I ignore it. Nothing matters more than the fact that Mika is here, and she's looking at me like more than just the weird neighbor who used to follow her around when we were kids.
Thanks, Hikaru-kun, for everything.
She self-consciously tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. I start to realize that this must be some nervous habit of hers.
I feel really lucky, actually. My date didn't work out, but I still had someone around to walk me home at the end of the night.
Her smile is shy and sincere. She takes a small step closer to me.
You should fill in for my dates more often.
Go for it. Make the move. It's so hard to think with her stepping into my space and breathing the way she is. I hear words coming out of my mouth, but I don't have the presence of mind to stop them. Only fill in? If I hadn't already been aware of her breathing, I wouldn't have noticed if it stuttered to a stop. She's so close now. I measure the distance in my head like some kind of robot, trying to figure out how much or how little I'd have to bend in order to kiss that purty mouth. She inhales and the distance between us shrinks even more.
Good night, Hikaru-kun.
Fuck! I'm embarrassed at how hard I'm breathing. Then she tilts her head with a flushed smile and quickly flounces back toward her apartment. The look she sends me as the door closes behind her is very promising. I don't know how long I stand there with a silly grin on my face, but when my toes start to go numb, I realize I've been gone a long time and Neurath is probably waiting for her bread. The kitchen is a disaster when I step in, of course. I seriously doubt Neurath is capable of going an entire day without messing something up. Speaking of which, the dark elf is laid out on the living room sofa, fast asleep. The mystery noises I could hear all the way down the hall were apparently just a product of the TV being on and the volume almost at max. Sighing, I tried to summon up some righteous anger at the warlock and come up empty. It's hard to get pissed off when everything in your shitty life feels right for once. Instead, I pick up the remote and set the volume on mute. Ironically, it's the total lack of noise that causes Neurath to wake up with her usual ladylike snort. Her bleary-looking eyes take a minute to focus on me, but when they do, she smirks.
How'd it go?
Purposely ignoring the question, I drop the bag of yakisoba bread on the floor next to her seat on the couch. Got what you wanted. She frowns at the evasion before looking down at the bread. It's hard not to burst out laughing at the fact that she's forgotten what her excuse to get me out of the house even was. It takes a while, but she obviously figures it out and swiftly plucks one out of the bag. Fine, let her play it off like she isn't a romantic underneath all that bluster.
Thanks.
Thank you, Neurath. I don't bother to clarify what I'm thanking her for. I don't need to. We both already know. She gives me a short nod and a tiny smile before pulling her yakisoba bread out of its wrapper and nibbling on it. Soon, the dark elf is happily watching TV, volume likely blasting through the whole building. Poor neighbors. I can't bring myself to care too much as I make my way back to my room, boot up the computer. I go to sleep that night in my own bed for the first time in weeks. Oh, she'd moved to the couch. Interesting. Getting Neurath's badge in time for the convention is a hassle and a half, but we manage it somehow. The look of utter amazement on her face when we walk in is even worth the exorbitant price. Almost. Manga, manga, manga. Indeed.
Holy shit! Is that the Demogorgon just walking around?
Like from Stranger Things? Her eyes actually physically bug out of her head slightly.
And what is a Knight of Sparrowkeep doing
fuck.
chatting him up? Those goody-goody shield-wearing twats give me a hard time.
It's pronounced twat, but I see where you're going with it. What are you doing? Neurath pauses with her fingers halfway through a spell weaving and curses loud enough to attract attention when the magic fizzles. She turns to glare at me before faltering at the expression on my face. Her angry retort comes out sounding more like a question.
Killing and looting?
You can't just... No! Look, these are people in costumes. Remember when I explained what cosplayers were?
Oh, so these are real ones?
Yes.
So that means I won't get any XP for slaying them?
You will not get any XP from going on a mass murdering spree. No.
Oh.
Her look of disappointment says it all, really. I take the homicidal elf with me toward the nearest information kiosk to pick up a map of the convention center. On the way, we're stopped several times by desperate Celestial Crossing fanboys who want to pose in pictures with Neurath. They fall all over themselves complimenting her amazingly accurate and resourceful cosplay,
The next fool that comes up to us wanting to flash some bright-ass light in my eyes gets punched in the face, useless. Fair warning.
That was fair warning. I note the tense set of her shoulders and how her glower has evolved into something that looks worryingly unstable. It's a complete turnaround from the wide-eyed awe she expressed earlier. I tried to phrase my concern carefully. I didn't think it would bother you so much. You've had to deal with worse at school, haven't you?
That was nothing like this.
She mutters her answer sourly. Before I can answer, our girl dressed as a dark elf comes barreling towards us and gushes over how natural Neurath's body paint looks compared to hers. It isn't until she asks what the warlock used to make her ears that the pieces click together in my head. The muscles in Neurath's arms suddenly flex, as if she means to take a swing at the shorter girl, who by some miracle realizes she might be in danger and stops talking abruptly. The girl shoots me a nervous look, especially when the real-life elf in front of her begins to tremble slightly. Haha, I think my friend here is just thirsty. We're gonna go hunt down a vending machine. Excuse us. I take Neurath's arm and guide her toward the section of the building where I know the games panel is being held. If he breaks my water station, I'm gonna be so sad. Can I hit him with this hammer? Fuck. No! My water purifier!